The Tesseract Files is a production of iHeartRadio.
Hello there. Long live the fighters!
I guess it's not a good day to be a bad guy.
Unfortunately, no one can be told. You have to see it for yourself.
Issue number 10, the big debut. This was the day that I've been literally talking about since we started the Tesseract Files 9 issues ago. This is issue number 10. This is going to be the big debut. You are the first major guest that I've been able to get. Everybody else has been like industry guys that I know and stuff like that. So you were the first like name guy. So Kevin Eastman makes the debut of the Tesseract Files, the first big show here at Supercon, Florida Supercon. How are you liking Miami?
Oh, love it. No, it's like I've been here as a tourist, many moons ago, and we've done, as we organize our show schedule each year, we try to schedule events in different parts of the U.S. and so we get to visit everybody, all of our fans, because we love and respect them and appreciate they've given me the greatest job ever. And so when we were invited to come down here for this, we were like, yeah.
I did a show about, I think it was like my third show or something. The question was the question adaptation. Is it better to do the thing, or is it better to do the spirit of the thing? I see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like The Wizard of Oz. There are people who read The Wizard of Oz, love the books, but they've never seen that story on the screen because it's always been Judy Garland, and it's always an offshoot of what that was. The closest thing is the Fairuza Balk movie that they did, Return to Oz.
I remember that.
That's about as close to the actual books as it is.
The wheelies. And
yeah.
That was crazy.
You've had cartoons, animated movies, live action movies. Have we actually seen the comic book version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the screen?
Yes, and because there's been over the past 42 years now, counting this year, of doing all things Turtles, and the Turtles universe of what do they call it? Different alternate universes.
Right, realities.
I will always point to the very first Turtles movie as like the ultimate and the best adaptation, because it not only had Steve Barron, who directed so wonderfully. Jim Henson brought the characters to life in his costume work. Todd Langdon, the writer. They really had a foot in each universe at that time, which was half of it was in the black and white Turtle comics. In fact, to the point where Steve Barron actually used storyboards from the first 11 issues that Pete and I did, panels from that, and brought them to life in the movie. But they had the other foot in the cartoon world, so the different colored bandanas, and the comedy and the pizza and a lot of the stuff. So it was really a wonderful balance that I thought was a perfect execution of something for the older audiences that had to bring the kids to it, and the kids. Yeah. So that the parents didn't sit there and go like, "Oh my God, our kids' movie! I had to sit through this." And so it was a really wonderful blend of both universes.
I would look at Turtles kind of like an anime more than I would look at it as animation. Like in other words, the storylines and everything that take place in the comic books is very manga-like, and so putting that on the screen would be akin to trying to. By the way, there hasn't really been a manga that's been put on the screen effectively as of yet. But you did the reboot. You got to either write on it or you supervised the writing of the reboot. What did you go about doing that you didn't see get done in the original film?
Which reboot?
Well, you did the live action though, right?
Yeah, so we did those because Peter and I, for the first 20 years of All Things Turtles, we had full control over and worked on and had final say on 250 animated episodes, all 3 movies. We approved the screenplays. We approved the so many different parts of All Things Turtles.
That is rare.
It is, but the cool part is like we were lucky in that. We already had a very successful comic book thanks to the fans and supporters of the original black and white series, but we were well aware of many of our heroes, like say Jack Kirby, who created co-created most of the Marvel Universe, but never was able to have say or participate or profit from the success of that. So we were aware of it. So when they approached us and said, "Hey, we want to do this, and I want to be your licensing agent. I want to be your licensing agent. You want to do this?" And we said, well, that sounds interesting, but we want full and final say and approval over everything. And, a couple of the first licensing agents were, well, that's never going to happen. And we said, well, we don't care, then we won't do it.
Right.
We were already, our dream had come true, is that we were drawing the comic books.
Yeah.
This is what we wanted to do. So we had our agent, Mark Friedman. He said, "Okay, I understand it. You want approval. You want this stuff." He said, "I'll fight for you and I'll get it," and he did. So we had, approval of the treatments, the screenplay, the look of the characters on screen, whether it be the cartoon or the live action version, and any other licensing and stuff that we did. We had say so that was our protection. Our ability to protect our characters in the way we wanted to see them realized on it, and we're very lucky to have that.
Kind of around the same time, not exactly at the same time, but kind of around the same time, you and the Image guys had the same idea, and you both kind of went about it in a different fashion.
Yep.
But ultimately, it was all about control of your characters, of which those guys have got massive characters, have no control over those whatsoever.
Yep.
And you, like I just said, that's a rarity where you did have control over everything. How did you try to put together Tundra so that it can protect the creators and protect their IPs, so that you don't have somebody out there making just a bogus version of what it is that you've created?
Well, it's funny that because the Turtles were up and running as an independent comic, and we were really just in the early stages. I think we'd actually had our deals, we developed the animated show, and we were working on the movies. And I remember getting a call from Todd McFarlane, and he's the only person I ever met that swears almost as much as my mom. Every other word was, F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb.
Yeah.
And but he was like, they were him and Liefeld and Eric Larson and that Jim Lee. They were the superstars in the mainstream comic at the time, but working on Marvel characters.
Okay.
And so he just was like, well, how did you do it? How did you do this? How did you, we want to start our own company. We want to have our own control. And I just said, honestly, the direct market is a perfect place to do it. All you have to do is do it. It's a non-returnable market. It's this, it had gotten big enough, I think, at that time. There were something like 5,000 comic stores across the U.S. He said, just do it. Create your imprint, decide what you want to do. So they literally, not long after, formed together, created Image, and pursued, each went forward with their, Spawn and Savage Dragon and so many other Wildcats and Gen 13 and all those really wonderful things. And it was great. It was a great time to see that sort of come to life, because it was a big movement in independent ownership and control of things in comic books. So it was a wonderful thing to see grow and experience. And to me, around this time, I was doing a lot of I'd go to shows and it would be something similar that, after a comic convention, 99% of the time, all the creators would end up at the hotel bar, swapping stories of, dealing with publishers or dealing with Hollywood or fan experiences or this kind of stuff. And a lot of them would come up and go, it's amazing what you've done with the Turtles, and we love Independence. He said, they said, I've got this idea that I would like to do as my own character, my own creation, say guys like Mike Allred with Madman and stuff that I published through Tundra and so many other things. He said, but, I also have 2 kids, a mortgage and stuff, and he said, I need the work with the mainstream stuff to make sure I get the
stability,
bills
of
paid. And so that was kind of the foundation and the structure of Tundra, was to sort of create an environment where I could help them cover their costs while they created something that they owned. Tundra owned nothing of what they did. After costs were recouped, the profit split was like 80-20 in their favor and stuff. So I just wanted to give them an opportunity, like I had the opportunity, Pete and I, with the Turtles. And so that was a basic structure of Tundra. And didn't quite work out the way I wanted to, but I have nothing but love for that time period and the stuff that came out of, like we published The Crow, we published Madman, we did, Alan Moore's From Hell. We did so many wonderful things that it was a great experience to see creators having fun and doing what they do best, which is creating. So.
Stuff that came out of your studio is actually some of the most successful comic book on-screen anything, because From Hell ended up being a really great movie. The Crow, obviously, Crow ended up becoming a franchise.
Yeah.
Your control of your IP and how you worked it is something that was exclusive to you guys, because all the Image guys, for all the stuff that they did and all of the different projects that they came out, none of them even remotely came close to what the Turtles did.
Yep.
What did you have that they didn't? Is it just because it was just you and your partner by yourself, or is it because they were like five heads trying to maintain the chaos of what that was?
Probably being naive was our greatest superpower at that stage. It's like we'd already accomplished in our mind everything we wanted to do, which is to be a creator, storyteller. Again, humbly follow in the steps of heroes like Jack Kirby and people like that have come. So many that came before us, and so we were paying our bills and we were eating, and everything was covered from the comics, and we were drawing full time, and that was the dream, the childhood dream had come true. So when people would be like, like I said, this, we had one of the first licensing agents came up and goes, hey, a 5-year thing, and I control everything and this stuff. And he said, no. And they go, what do you mean no? And I said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to fall for whatever you're pitching, because one, we don't like you. Two, you approach us in a way that we're like, how dare you? And one, this is intended to be a comic book. And I said, if it's going to be anything other than what it is designed to be, which is a comic book, then we want to have full say on it. So just being, one, having a job that paid the bills, and two, and just being naive about how those things worked. And so we just kept control of everything.
Now, I know that you are a art collector, and you have a rather extensive collection, but you also, as you already previously mentioned, had Bill Sienkiewicz working with you over at Tundra.
Yeah.
Do you have Sienkiewicz art, and what is it that's up there? Because if there's one guy, or if there's not a lot of people that I'll fangirl over,
sure.
That's one of those dudes that I'll actually girl over.
No, it's like I was lucky enough that I met Bill early on. A fan of, obviously, a lecture that he did with Frank and so many other things, and had bought different pieces, not only as some of his larger paintings, but some of his comic book art. But we were working together to bring back a project that he had started with Alan Moore called Big Numbers and stuff. So it ended up, some things worked out, some things didn't, but Bill and I got to be friends, and that to me is the best part. And so I have a bunch of his stuff, love it, and some's on the wall, some's in the vault. But always love seeing Bill at a show, because he's a legend. He's a sweetheart. He's a great guy, and so we enjoy that. And that's sort of, sometimes when they tell you, it's like, be afraid to meet your heroes.
Yeah.
That was not the case with Bill. He's a great guy.
For me, I was collecting New Mutants, and there was a standard way of comics, and then he was a 180, man. That was just a sharp turn. Nothing looked like Sienkiewicz. Yeah. And in turn, same deal with George Perez. And George Perez I got to meet here, and he's another guy who's a total sweetheart before he passed. Yeah. He was a great guy. And his work as well redefined DC the way that guy redefined Marvel.
Yeah. So they're legends for a reason. It's like they bring, their love and passion and their incredible skills to a medium that we already are in love with, but they do it in a way that it's like it's sort of like suddenly you're like, holy shit. And they're sort of, doing that over there, and you love it. And it really changed, and it's a ripple effect felt to the entire industry. Like Frank Miller. I mean, Daredevil has always been, my top, one of my top favorite superhero characters. But I was reading it, Gene Colan and Bob Brown and Roger McKenzie, and so many of these people that had worked on Daredevil. And I remember issue 158 was, Frank's first issue, and watching that evolution over the next 30 issues was just, amazing, groundbreaking. It's like, the same with like Swamp Thing. I was a fan of Swamp Thing and Bernie Wrightson and Len Wein and just all that, these guys that had brought that to life in the heyday of that particular period for DC Comics. And then when you see Alan Moore come in, and I think they were literally, about to cancel Swamp Thing as a comic, and so they said, well, we got this guy from England who's got some skills, and Steve Bissett and John Tottleman, who are fresh out of the Joe Kubert School of cartooning and stuff like that, and they just took that character and did things with it that were just like, it was revolutionary. It was something that, and that was some of the first big steps, leaps and bounds towards bringing comics into for adults. Taking that transition of, comics aren't for kids, like the Comics Code approved authority, where there's, regulated to keep them from, for 12-year-old boys and younger. And they were sort of like, well, Frank Miller, I think, was 24, 25 when he started doing Daredevil, and he's like, I want to write comics that I want to read for adults. So, it's
and he was always he ended up doing some of the hero stuff, but he did stuff that was out of the hero stuff that was just groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Kev, because you have a line that's starting to form right now, and by the way,
it's like we try to
you've
get
got
in
the
early
nice little
'cause-
crisscross right here, and every year I always want to see if anybody beats George Takei's line. Like the first time that they came here, he had a massive, like it was unreasonable, like it went out the door. William Shatner didn't even come close. I have no idea what the deal was or why Takei was like so massive at the time.
Sure.
But for whatever reason, everybody and their mom was there, and the only thing that made me truly laugh, it wasn't funny, but it is kind of funny, is that sitting right next to him, with the booth right next to him, was George Lucas's son.
Oh.
It was nobody in front of his eye. And I felt so bad. I was like, oh my God. It's like, my dad made Star Wars. Like, it wasn't enough.
It's again, we are so lucky that so we try to get in early, because sometimes I know there's dealers or people that have booths here that they don't get to. Once the show opens, they're in their booth for the show. So it's like we try to get early in case we get some fan, a collector or something that is stuck in one of those booths to come over and get to hang with us and say hi before the show gets off the charts.
I always wonder, because for me, I'm not a big autograph hound at all. And anything that I get autographed, I always have it forwarded to me. Because are you getting it because you want to flip it? Or are you getting it because it's something for you? For me, it's always something for me. And so I always get them to sit there like, my biggest fan, Carlos. And so, instead of just the regular signatures. And thank you, man. Thank you for coming on the Tesseract Files. You are the first big major guest. You are going to be the iconic first big show that I've got. So.
That was myself and Kevin Eastman from the Miami Beach Convention Center during Florida Supercon over this weekend. Had a lot of fun hanging out with him, had a lot of fun hanging out at the convention. He was one of those signature creators, one of those signature comic book creators, or story creators, especially from, the 80s going on into the 90s. One of the most important guys in comics because of what he did with Tundra. It's the same as what the Image guys, the Image comic book guys are the ones that get, chronicled a bit more. But Tundra was just as important. And that was just as big, being able to have control over your work and be able to recoup the bulk of the profits of it, as opposed to the way that, most of those creators got handcuffed. Really, back at that time, you didn't have a lot of comic book companies, and definitely nothing that could go up against Marvel and DC. DC went up and absorbed so many different companies throughout the years, which is why they ended up having all those different multiple realities to create Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's why they had a whole bunch of different comic book companies that they absorbed along the way. And then Marvel had a bunch of creators that created some of the most iconic, characters that you know of today. It's not that they didn't get the credit, but they definitely didn't get the profit of it. They too were handcuffed into a system that had existed for decades by that point. And Image Comics and Tundra both were organizations that helped break that mold and, at the very least, give far more empowerment to comic book creators than they ever had before. Eastman is a signature name in this business, and it was really, 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 really cool to sit down and talk with him. So now I am going to bring on former schoolmate, formerly of MTV3, formerly of CNN, editor and producer. Editor and producer, but there was another word that I was looking for. And it wasn't that. It was editor, producer. Dang it.
Well, is it producer?
Director of photography.
Yes.
DP. Director of photography. Yeah, there you go. Dude, it's literally in your email. How did you forget it?
Well, I did not forget. I was just waiting for you to say it.
Director of photography, Andres Suarez. Streaming television. We're like knee deep in streaming television all over the place. And streaming television, it has taken the narrative away from film because it can go long. Streaming TV is now at a point where if I was going to take a project and make it live action, I kind of want to make it a streaming television series and not make it a film. And that is a real hit to someone who absolutely adores film from the get-go. Is streaming television not only taking away from film, but even when film is supposed to be great, it doesn't seem as great in comparison. This is where we got into the argument over Frankenstein, because everybody and their mom, it's not just you and your lovely wife Susanna, but everybody else that I have talked to adores this Frankenstein movie. And I was psyched. It's like, okay, everybody's going crazy over it. Yeah, I got
expectations were too high.
Maybe, but I sat down and I tried to sit there and I just, and I gave it the shot. Like I sat there and I watched it attentively. I turned everything off. No, I'm focusing on this Frankenstein movie. And I sat there and I watched the Frankenstein film, and the Frankenstein film paled in comparison to episodes of Penny Dreadful. Penny Dreadful's depiction of Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster, the Bride of Frankenstein, all of them are possibly the best representations of all of those characters that I've ever seen. And mind you, the Bride to me, way back in the 80s with Sting and Jennifer Beals, was pretty good. That was a really good depiction of the Bride of Frankenstein. I thought that was great. I felt for that Frankenstein monster played by Clancy Brown more than I've ever felt for any Frankenstein monster that was made up until him and made even after him. He was that heartbreaking of he gave you that heartbreaking of a performance that you totally fell for that guy, and to see the payoff at the end that he gets the happy ending, it was beautiful. That was a beautiful movie. Sting is a horrible scientist as Frankenstein. He is the villain, and he comes off perfect as the villain. I can't tell you a thing about Scorsese's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I can't remember a scene. I can remember a bunch of stuff from Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
De Niro was...
But De Niro was... Yeah, that's about it. That's all. I can kind of remember some of the final scenes with...
was it Kenneth Branagh?
Was he? See, that's it. I don't even remember that. I don't... and this is Martin Scorsese. This is a Martin Scorsese film. I can't remember barely a scene from that movie. That's how non-hard-hitting it is. And so now, for me to say that the characters in Penny Dreadful and the way that it was done in Penny Dreadful shines so brightly, is the threat to cinema not necessarily ticket prices, not necessarily what you could put on the big screen to get people to kind of go? Is it more and more and more? It's the narrative, like the way that the film is done, the pacing, everything. Christoph Waltz is in this movie. He might as well have just been. He could have been anybody. Anybody could have played that part.
Yes.
The actress that was playing the female role in the film.
No, I think she did a good job. I mean,
I could barely even picture her face right now. Like, that's how non-memorable she was.
Okay, by the way,
Oscar Isaac, who is an absolutely amazing actor. Oscar Isaac in this movie is just kind of annoying. He's not fearsome, and he's not somebody that I feel for, and I want him to succeed.
But the thing is, like, he is fearsome until he meets somebody who he wants to impress.
Yeah, but he's not fearsome in this film. In the film, he's just annoying. He's just like an annoying guy.
He's pushing and pushing and pushing.
Right, he's pushing the agenda, but that just makes him that doesn't make him fearsome.
Well, the one thing that he succeeded at is what becomes his competition.
Here's what I mean by fearsome. Hugo Weaving in The Matrix is fearsome. Hugo Weaving sitting across the desk from Keanu Reeves and interviewing him in that slow manner is freaking scary.
Yeah, he's scary. Yeah.
Hugo Weaving in the Captain America movie as the Red Skull, he's not scary at all. He's just annoying. He's a douche. He's a douche in the film. Yeah. And it's fine. You're a Nazi. You're a douche. I get it. But you're not fearsome like the way that the Red Skull should be. Like the Red Skull is like, in other words, Thanos, in making a few moves, is straight up fearsome throughout
Lord of the Rings.
In Lord of the Rings, he's not supposed to be fearsome at all. He's Elrond. He's supposed to be. He's supposed to have wisdom.
Well, yes. But, I mean, to me, it was a great film. Altogether, it was filmed, by the way, Mary Shelley's was not directed by Scorsese. It was directed by Kenneth Branagh, and he was...
Produced by Scorsese?
It was probably produced by Scorsese, but it was directed and starred by Kenneth Branagh.
Branagh directed it. It wasn't Scorsese? Because I remember that was the whole big deal. Like, Coppola came out with Dracula, and then Scorsese was coming out with...
I think he probably produced it, but he was not the director. So that definitely gives it a...
Well, because that's another one. No, because again, that's a Kenneth Branagh movie. Kenneth Branagh is a great director.
He's a great director, but
and yet again, this is
not every great director is a great director in every genre.
No, true, but this is that's a Kenneth Branagh film.
That being said, the director of Frankenstein, he is supposed to be the perfect
Guillermo del Toro
for that genre.
This was his he's been waiting to make this movie, and
now
it's okay.
And now is he going to be doing Dracula?
I mean, if I'm going off of Frankenstein, I'd rather not. If I'm going off of Frankenstein, I can't. There's a mini series on Netflix made by the people who created Sherlock, the BBC version of Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
It's a 3-part series of Dracula. That Dracula may be one of the single best Draculas I've ever seen. Like, that guy's performance as Dracula is that great.
But so streaming television.
Right.
So there is a couple of things that kind of come into play. First,
budget. Budget.
No. But you have to start with one of the biggest changes in entertainment and how people got accustomed to watch these things at home, which is the
pandemic. Yeah, the pandemic happened. Everybody stayed at home.
It habituated people to people realized that they could watch these movies at home. They could stream it. Sure, they'll probably pay $15, $20, and then they'll watch it in their bigger screen, an 85-inch TV.
Yeah,
and they're just watching it from home.
Yeah, but the counter to that is if what you had for them to watch wasn't compelling to keep them there,
absolutely,
they wouldn't have stayed.
They wouldn't have stayed. But they got a taste of just staying home and not having to go to the movie theaters.
True.
And dealing with people talking and the high prices of concessions and all of the things that people used to kind of put up, if you will, to go to the movie theater to enjoy a movie. And now you go to movie theaters and people are talking because they got accustomed to talk while during the films at home.
Right.
So it's kind of like a de-education of the audience. So that you have to take that into account first.
Sure.
Right?
Convenience, obviously. Yes.
Convenience takes big place of that. Now, other parts, when you have a series like Penny Dreadful, and you have a couple of characters to build, a couple of episodes to build a character, is definitely going to help you to fall in love with those characters easier.
Yes, because you could take your time to tell the story.
Take your time to tell a story, like the first couple of seasons of Game of Thrones. They will take 2 months to get from point A to point B. Then season 7 came, and they would take like half episode to go from the north to So the time changed, the storytelling changed, but then you can afford more time. You can afford certain luxuries to create some characters. When you have more TV shows like The Last of Us, you can actually take the time, which wouldn't probably, as somebody who never played the game and really liked the show.
Yeah.
And I really like the characters. You fall in love with these characters, whether you like the actors or not. I mean, regardless of, you just have more time to I guess, like a relationship. I mean,
you have time to build on it.
Yeah, it's just the time that you have to develop the characters, and convenience, cost. I mean, and also I guess the other thing that you have to keep in mind is that streaming services, especially Netflix, how it completely changed the game.
Right.
Not only investing in movies and investing great amounts of money in great shows.
Sure.
So it's all of those things. It's hard to compete for movies to compete with quality content from streaming services that can afford to create that.
Well,
content.
this is what brought me to this question. Is it that they have to compete for that quality, or is it that it's forcing them now to have quality?
I think yes.
You can't go out there and give me a mediocre movie.
No.
And you can't go out there and give me a film that has like a stinker of an ending. Like Mission Impossible is a perfect example of that. Mission Impossible, pretty much almost every other Mission Impossible movie, with the exception of 2, is memorable and great. The last two, even though they have cool moments, you can't really tell me what happened in those movies because it was so far out, and it didn't really flow. It made you want that last Mission Impossible movie with Superman in it. Yeah. That one should have been the end. That should have been the finale because that feels more like the finale than their actual finale.
Which was an actual good movie.
It was a great movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I don't know if the writer's strike had anything to do with it.
Apparently, it's not hurting on streaming TV because those guys are making out like bandits right now.
But I don't know what happened with those last two movies. Definitely, when it comes to the story, they definitely went off the rails.
Yeah.
Like they were set to make AI the enemy.
Right.
That was like that was the thing, is the thing that it's common that people are talking about. People are afraid of AI. You know what? People are afraid of what's AI advancements. Let's make it the enemy. So it was
always intelligent, but they kind of over intelligent. They kind of oversight themselves out on that one. They made something that like a little too complex, and it just didn't.
And they
function.
thought they could stretch it for 2 movies.
Right. Will Hollywood shift now towards having to make everything absolutely great? In other words, you can't. In other words, they're not going to bother to even try to put out into theaters something that's mediocre.
If we're talking about into theater, I do believe that they do have to push the envelope, and they do have to push the envelope on the story before we start talking about. I mean, I know we're talking about MCU sci-fi movies and stuff like that, but regardless, they have to push the envelope and make sure they're not just creating something for the viewers and keeps shifting. No, this is the story. We're going to create this story. Sure, they will have their test audiences and stuff like that, but they have to focus on content of quality. Yes.
Will it allow for filmmakers now to get some of those cooks out of the kitchen? Because you're only going to get those kinds of stories if you give somebody that has vision to allow his vision to be made. In other words, if you're making a studio film and too many hands are in there, now that's going to be a mediocre movie, and now your audience knows that's going to be a mediocre film, and just not spend the money to go and see it.
The thing that's a longer conversation, because there is many angles to the investment in Hollywood, in cinema. As an investment practice.
Well, I'm kind of wondering,
because there is also the investing into movies just as a write-off.
Right. So I'm kind of wondering now how the business model is working now, because it's not what it was. It can't be what it was. It can't be what it was at all. There's no longer print. We're no longer printing out reels of film. Everything is digital now. Everything is getting I don't even think they even have drives anymore. Like it used to be, they would send the drive and you had to install the drive. Now I think it just gets straight up streamed right into the projector, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but for the most part, that was how they did their ads and everything.
If
it just
you're
got
streaming 4K or 8K
right, exactly
quality video. I mean, that's all.
So I'm really, really curious as how the breakdown works, especially even with streaming media. Like if you're making a film and it's gonna go to what do you call it? The Affleck Matt Damon in Miami movie that they just made about a year ago. Like, how did they get their payoff on that? Like, did they make their payday? Like, because clearly that's a contract, right? Like, you get bought out by said company. Said company now incurs not only the cost of paying you for the film, but will get any residual off of it. because you got paid off in the contract when you made it. So you get like your one big bulk payday, and that's the end of it, and then it goes away. They now hold the rights to that. Right, they hold the rights to that sucker for as long as they've made it in their contract. So I'm really, really curious today how that breaks down and how that works.
But it obviously has a lot to do with streaming contracts and how many streams that movie is going to get, and I imagine the monetization goes depending of the amount of plays they get, and then the investments go up. Everything is a numbers game. Like
so. If you're an investor, you're basically making your film so that you're going to get the payday from whatever streaming media site that you're going to sell to.
Yeah, you also got to remember that nowadays investors and producers and the studios, like everybody has a lot more information to base their decision on.
A lot more algorithms, yeah.
There is algorithms. There is, we released the trailer. What was the
feedback on it?
What was the feedback on the trailer? What was people saying? Was a good? How many likes do we get? How many reshares do we get? So if we got a lot of reshares, that means that the film is most likely to be good. So if the film is going to be
not necessarily that the film's going to be good, but that at the very least you're going to get a really good opening.
Exactly, that the film is going to do good.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. So they're more likely to release it in more screens,
right?
Because they had a good feedback on the whole process.
Correct.
So back in the day, it was just release the trailer and keep the
you can
movie
get test screenings and you can kind of get a notion of what it is that people are going to like or dislike about the movie and kind of like go on from there.
Yeah, but they didn't have the immediate feedback.
A little bit. Well, a little bit. I mean, that's how you got your third Fast and the Furious movie. Like that's where that Fast and the Furious movie came from.
We're at 11 right now.
Huh?
We're at 11 right now. Fast and Furious movies.
No. But I'm saying that's how you got the third one because it was supposed to be all straight to video at that point.
Yes.
Like it was going to go and like that third one was going to be the last one in the theaters, and then they were all going to go to video. And then when they did the test audiences, they saw that last scene with Diesel coming in and everybody losing their lunch.
Yeah,
and that put it into the theaters. And then they continued on after that.
But you know that if Vin Diesel was going to sign up for that, was not going to be for straight to streaming movie.
No, but that movie, the series was going to become straight to video. In other words, that last Fast and the Furious, that third movie was supposed to be the last one. And then they were all going to be like Fast and the Furious Monaco, Fast and the Furious Hawaii, Fast and the Furious, like it was going to be that. But it's straight to video movies. So you would have like Fast and Furious 11, but they were like corny, WWE pictures, kind of like
No Retreat, No Surrender.
Exactly. Movies like that. But because of what happened with Diesel and everybody blowing up, then they were like, okay, let's get Diesel back then, and let's make this, let's continue to make the franchise. But Diesel wouldn't sign on.
Unless he had more control.
Right, unless he got control of the films, and then they didn't give it to him, and so I was like, so he just sat back and I'll just sit back and wait. Exactly. I'll wait until the rights come up, and then I'll buy the rights, and I'll take it all back
do it myself. Yeah,
and he did it, and that's exactly how you get your Fast and. Oh my God, it is 11, isn't it?
It is 11. Wow, with spin-offs and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Jesus.
And they had the money to spend, $1.8 million in a 20-second scene with Paul Walker just writing off.
Doing the
song,
the video
the deep fake.
The deep fake of
Exactly.
Which actually brings us to the subject, which is AI in cinema.
That was a good segue.
Evangeline Lilly went off on Marvel Studios, where she goes off on the fact that Marvel Studios has fired 1,000 employees that worked in their special effects department, or actually their computer graphics department, in order to supposedly, or at least rumored, for AI. It actually hasn't been confirmed by Marvel themselves, but pretty much everybody who got fired is straight up saying, it's because of AI. Like they're taking our positions and they're making and they're gonna use AI for it. Now I will say this before we even like turn on Marvel on this one. Anytime that they're making any Marvel movie, any one of those big time special effects films, the effects are done a good year before they ever even get started on writing the movie and casting it and everything. They have to get those big time scenes kind of already like halfway done before the film even gets into real pre-production. And so all of those kinds of workers would be making special effects for a film before the film is actually even, thoroughly worked out.
Right.
That worked when you were doing 1, 2, 3 movies. When you're starting to branch out the way that they are branching out, now you're running into a bunch of movies that are kind of like they have a really good opening, but the back end of the movie is kind of meh because it wasn't totally plotted out right, or it wasn't all totally thought out right. Because again, you're basing it off of making it off of, like, I have to have this battle scene here. Why? Because it's already made. It's in there. I got to plug it in. So you're not really writing a film from point A to point B. Rather, you're writing a film from point A to this spot here, and then fill in this gap, and then this spot here, and then fill in this gap. And it really makes for a choppy story, which, by the way, you're seeing now on the screen. That Marvel's, not that Marvel's movie, the Eternals film, which I keep going back to because it's a perfect example of that. The first half of that movie was... It was almost Somonix. Like it just didn't really have a flow to it at all. It kicked off when the portrayal happens, and then that whole action sequence all the way to the end. That's when that movie totally kicked ass.
Yes,
like that. From that point on, that movie flew. And so this is, if you're Marvel, you're trying to, I'm assuming, cut the time. I don't need to sit down X amount of people to work on these special effects if I can get it done in a quarter of the time. If I can get it done in a quarter of a time through a computer, as opposed to paying said person to sit there for a seriously mind-numbingly a long amount of time. People kind of don't still to this day don't really understand making those computer graphics, making those effects on a screen takes a long time, and it's endless guys behind a computer just inch going for days.
But AI is not. It's not necessarily here in merely to replace everything.
No.
So it's not there yet. So
there's gonna be a guy who's making those computer graphics for the movie utilizing AI.
Exactly.
And so instead of having 1,000 people do this, they're not condensing it to like 10 guys.
Yeah, you're narrowing the team down,
right,
and have a couple of really good prompters. Because you need to be able to prompt everything, every detail, and be very specific, and feed references and how the process works. This is going to be your first frame. This is going to be your last frame. This is going to happen in between, and the other hiccups as well is the level of quality.
Right.
Because not every AI platform
can do it.
Can deliver in 4K, 8K, or in a quality level that
or even give you consistent characters, consistent scenery, and everything like that.
I mean, you're gonna start seeing a lot of holes on continuity.
I completely agree with Evangeline Lilly's sentiment. Totally get it and totally understand it. And yeah, I'm right on board with it. As I've stated before, like I've had many a conversation with like Justine Bateman, who's on a vendetta against AI, but unfortunately for both ladies, and it's just the truth of the matter, the genie's not going back in the bottle. The genie's out, and you're going to have to get in front of this thing. You're going to have to train yourself to learn how to do it and how to be able to do it in a short amount of time. Your son right now is in school for animation. He is literally one of these guys that had he graduated and he was out in the workforce, he'd be out of work right now.
Well, he's going for animation, but he's more towards game design. So
yeah, well, what makes you think that that's not going to happen?
No, it is definitely going to
right. BioWare is all of a sudden going to can
exactly. No, he's in the world building and in the imagination part. I mean the science.
EA, all of those studios are going to knock off half of what I call their slave labor, because that's exactly how they work.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're going to knock out like
farms.
Yeah, they're going to knock out like half their slave labor.
Yeah. But you also have to look at it, I guess, at a deeper question is that is Hollywood changing to AI because they want to save money, or they're changing to AI because a lot of the investment is coming from companies who generate AI?
I think they're going to change to AI because it's just a natural evolution, and they're just going to go that way anyway.
Even though
and you don't want to be Xerox. You don't want to be Xerox who didn't capitalize on the fact that you had Windows in your back pocket.
But there is such thing as too soon.
True, but I mean, you might as well get started now so that you could be in front of it later.
But the likelihood right now,
you're gonna have to work out a lot of kinks. It's nowhere near. It's nowhere near
if
being.
If you're gonna have a doomsday movie that is going to compare to the prior Avenger movies or not, likelihood is not going to.
You still have to be creative. You still have to be able to think outside of the box.
Yes.
You still have to be able to have a flair and a look of how you're going to do a thing and make it work so that it's palatable for the masses and make it work so that it looks great. Like, you can have somebody go out there and maybe try to do an AI version of Dune. It's not going to look like what Denis doing. It's not even going to be remotely look like what Denis does. You could try and do something that looks like Inception, but it's not going to be Inception.
Exactly.
Like, you're going to have knockoffs. They're going to be out there, but there always was. There's never been a time when something was innovative and you didn't have the wannabe movie that came out, after it.
You have the Matrix, and then you have all the
you have all the Matrix clones. Like, how many of those trash freaking Barbarian movies came out after Conan the Barbarian came out? Not a one of them can you even remember or tell me the plot of. But you remember Conan.
But they made money because they bank on the fame of Conan.
Right.
So,
you got all the robot movies that came out after the Terminator. You've got all these Alien wannabes that came out after Alien. Yes. So, there's always going to be copies and knockoffs. The cream should still rise to the top.
Exactly. So let those knockoffs use the AI.
Right.
And save money and whatever.
But that's what they are. But that's her beef right there. Is that, like, you are supposed to be the ones that's making the quality,
exactly,
and
you're setting the bar,
right? And now you're canning the guys who are creating your quality,
exactly,
for what's going to be maybe quality. We don't know. You're not really going to know what's good or what's bad until you kind of see it. And then once
and the other part of it is, like, you meet these guys. Like, I visited what's the George Lucas studio that they did Light
Industrial Light and Magic,
ILM. The studio, you talk to these guys, they're passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
They love what they do. They're very detail oriented.
They're artists.
They're artists. That, like, you might be able to replace the images on the screen or how you go about the screen, but you're never going to be able to replace that. And that part of the human factor is what creates quality in cinema.
That vision, like I said, that vision. Like, if you have a vision for something, you're going to do what it takes to achieve said vision, and in creating that vision, it comes out. It's
people like you talk to the guy who did the sound for Dune.
Right.
Some of the voices is his own voice recorded backwards and stuff like that.
Star Wars in and of itself. The sound effects that happen in Star Wars, like, everybody, I really, really, really wish that everybody would, who is deeply into cinema and who is deeply into special effects and everything, watch the making of the first Star Wars.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it was a bleep show. And everybody that was on that project thought that they just made the worst B movie ever. It wasn't until they sat down in the theater and they watched it and they saw it, they were like, holy crap, this is what this is. Like, Carrie Fisher herself was not going to show. She was not going to go to the premiere. Her mom made her go to the premiere. It's like, you're a professional. This is your project. You have to go and see it.
Show face.
And it wasn't until she sat there and watched it, it was like, what? Who's that guy? Did you recast Darth Vader? I don't even know who that is. Like, it is such a moment for them to see. You start off with something that looks like garbage, but because there's somebody who has the vision of it, you're just not seeing it from their point of view. Right. You have to wait until it's done, and then you're going to understand it. It's why Empire Strikes Back is so much better than Star Wars, because by the time that they get to Empire, they've now seen what everything is, and so it just fit them like a glove the second time around.
Yeah, but then you realize that the people making the decisions are obviously the money people, or it's not the
when it comes to the big
leaders.
budget stuff like that. Yeah.
So, I mean, the people want to save a certain amount of money by using AI because, AI is here to stay and the whole thing, but it's not there yet.
No, it's not even close. Like you have lifelike looking things, but they're still kind of lifeless, especially when it comes to eyes.
Look at the Coca-Cola commercial for last year. It's completely made in AI, no sentiment, there is no connection, there is nothing. Even if it's an animation, the Coca-Cola commercials, they had something.
I saw Tomorrowland, the movie Tomorrowland, with my nephew back then when it came out. And I sat there, and there was like these different scenes where the girl who plays the robot in the film has, and each time she had a moment where she emotes by not saying a word. That was me turning him to saying, "See that's what makes a great actor right there." Like, saw what she just did with her eyes. Like, she just did everything that you needed to know about that particular moment, just with a look and just what she just did with her eyes. The way that she reacted to the action that was happening to her is what sells that moment. AI is not even remotely close to being that yet. No. You can have what AI is really good for, at least right now, at least right this second, right now, what it really, really is good for, you can make a really good trailer and you can get across what it is that you're going to do. Like, if I want a studio to understand, okay, you want to know what it's going to look like, boom. And then I'll give them the AI trailer. And they have a pretty good example of what it is.
I mean, you're flipping through your phone and Instagram, a bunch of AI commercials come out, like selling you to take classes of AI. They all have exactly the same flaws, continuity. They
can't sync up the audio perfectly well.
The audio. Most of the time, they're using exactly the same sound bed and creating images to match those sounds, but it's not there yet.
No. It is a little, but the amount of time that it would take you to do all of those things in order to get it exactly right, you could have just gotten real people.
Right.
You could have just gotten real people and done it in half the time.
Right.
Like, the amount of time that it takes you, like, you can do it. You can sit there. Like, I literally watched a guy make the Invincible trailer. Remember I showed you that live action Invincible trailer? Yeah. That was a dude. Like, a dude sat there and it took him X amount of time to be able to do that. Or me, like when I made my Wu-Tang trailer. Like, I made a trailer for the Wu-Tang movie that I literally did in like an hour. I made that in an hour. But if I really, really wanted to make it great, it would take me a good amount of time and cost me a certain amount of money to be able to,
because
pay.
The credits are not cheap.
You're right, exactly. And so it would have been done faster and maybe cheaper if I just went out and shot it. Like, if I just went out and got a bunch of people and went ahead and shot it.
I guess it all depends on how elaborate the effects,
right,
or the look, how specific the look is, and things like that.
I still think that the first leap for it that's going to happen, the first significant leap that you're going to see where something gets made in AI and it's like an entire thing, it's going to be an animated movie. Yeah. It's going to be an animated film where you can get away with not necessarily needing somebody to do sell, even though you better hope that, your mannerisms. Well, actually, no, you do, because you've got the AI clones now where they clone your face, and then you can act it out, and then it copies what you've acted out onto the animated character.
Well, there's this director, Darren Aronofsky, right?
Right.
He made his first AI movie, feature-length AI movie.
He made an entire film. Yeah.
Yes. It's coming out on July 31st. And
this is Aronofsky, right?
Aronofsky.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow, man.
Still looks like AI. I mean, it still looks. It's well, he's the executive producer. It's a web series produced completely in AI.
I'm assuming it's going to be kind of like, say, like that first Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Remember that first Final Fantasy movie? Like, the first Final Fantasy movie was all right, but when they made Advent Children, you're like, whoa, that was a leap.
Yes.
And it's still to this day, like that movie was made, it wasn't even 2000.
Right. But it still looks like, the characters don't necessarily have the facial
I've seen this.
expressions.
Okay.
Yeah, this whole thing is AI. but you still have it still looks fake. Some of the when you have crowds, when you have those close
everything is still right there. Well, actually, right there, like he's screaming and it's closed up, and he's not shaking.
He's not shaking.
He's not shaking with intensity.
It doesn't have that same intention. Exactly.
Right.
The action is there.
Right.
There is somebody screaming, but then somebody didn't prompt somebody. The dude is screaming his lungs out with passion, where tears come out of his eyes. I mean, you have to prompt every little.
The
detail.
computer is still too much point A to point B, and it doesn't understand subtlety yet.
Right, and you have to prompt that subtlety.
Yeah.
And even when you prompt it, doesn't necessarily pick it up.
No.
So it's I guess it's a good exercise, but last I heard it was going to be a movie. Now I see it's a web series.
Really, I thought it was going to go to the
that was my understanding. It was when the project first came out to light, it was going to be a movie.
I wonder how much heat he's taking from that right now. Like everybody's just like looking at him cross-eyed.
I know, like you just
because every actor that I can think of right now is spitting on AI.
It's like the kid that just snitched to the teacher.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody's just looking at him like,
and he's not some he's not like Uwe Boll. Or something like that. Right?
Exactly. It's not some B director.
No. This is a critically acclaimed, highly well-known director.
Exactly.
And he went this route. Wow, I wonder what the Directors Guild is doing to him right now. That's the unfortunate thing about these creators is that there is an Actors Guild, there's an Actors Union, there's a Directors Union, there's a Screenwriters Union.
Yes.
There's not one for people who make
special effects
or anything like that. There's a stuntman union.
There's a union, yeah.
But there's not really for digital animation or anything like that. I don't think so. I can't think of a one.
There is interesting. I heard. I believe it was talking about AI. What's his face? He is in the first season of.
You see that?
I'm actually watching it. He is in the first season of detective movie in HBO.
True Detective?
True Detective.
With McConaughey and...
Matthew McConaughey, I believe, is the one I was saying that you have to get ahead of the game.
Yes.
And copyright your own image, and you copyright become your
every
own
single
owner.
person that is of any type of note, if you're not... if you don't have image rights already, you're insane. If you haven't gone out and copyrighted yourself, you're nuts. Every actor, every athlete, every internet influencer, every music artist, everybody who's in front of any kind of camera and your face is out there, every model, every single one of you should have your image rights.
Absolutely.
And should have total control over it right now. Like if you haven't incorporated yourself,
and you don't have to be a well-known, recognized actor. No, if you're just trying to make it through, make sure you get your rights.
The second, like we're doing this podcast. This podcast is an audio-only podcast, but I do have to start to think about my voice.
Yes.
And like all of a sudden, oh shoot, yeah, and now I'm gonna have to incorporate my voice. Why? Because somebody can clone this voice.
And people clone their own voice.
Right, exactly.
And sell it. Their own voice.
I still think that it's lucrative. I still think that if you're an actor, that should be something that should be crazy lucrative. Like if you've got your image rights and then you put it out there as a process, you could just put laws in there to tell like you can't use it for this or else you get sued, or you can't use it for that or else you get that and whatever. And then
yeah, but then
you'll be making crazy bank off of that.
The funny thing, like you still find actors,
like how many Morgan Freeman commercials have you heard on the internet?
And it's funny you say Morgan Freeman because I was about to get to Morgan Freeman because there is this guy somewhere in Utah and somewhere in middle of the United States. He charges you to record voiceovers as Morgan Freeman.
Right.
He's a fake Morgan Freeman.
He's a Morgan Freeman impersonator.
He's a Morgan Freeman. He sounds very close to him.
Right.
It's not Morgan Freeman. He's just an impersonator, and
right.
he can charge because I just happen to sound very much alike like
right.
this guy. I'm not him. I'm not claiming to be him. I just sound like him.
Yeah.
So if somebody like that can potentially get sued for using that, especially such a particular voice as Morgan Freeman's,
right?
I mean, imagine somebody who can, whatever, fake anybody's voice.
How have lawyers themselves not just gone like
They have
on a tear to just like start making law and start making, or at least making contracts so that they can like fully protect everybody and get crazy bank off of that. I would think that that would be incredibly lucrative. Yeah.
And I'm sure lawyers go. I mean, they buy what was the thing that I recently? Oh, there is this woman in The Real Wives.
Oh, Real Housewives.
The Real Housewives.
Yeah.
So there is a lawsuit against her for $25 million.
Jeez.
Right, or something like that.
Okay.
So, but apparently they didn't file the lawsuit or something like that. But a group of lawyers bought the rights to sue her. So they own the rights to that lawsuit. So it's a gamble. Doesn't mean that the fact they have the rights to sue her doesn't mean that they're going to win the case.
Well, no, it's like the guys who buy the rights to all these different songs, and then if it gets used, I can sue you for the right.
Yeah, you see all the lawsuits because this song was used a sample of such and such song without permission, and it's not. It has absolutely no relationship to the original songwriter.
No,
or the composer. Yeah, exactly the same thing. So, there's lawyers who they need to make they also need to make money, I guess.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out with us on the Tesseract Files. I hope you've gotten enlightened a little bit to some of the things that happen behind the camera, and I hope that at the very least, before you go and think that everything is about to fall apart and totally never be the same again, at the very least, you should still have an open mind as to advancements in technology. Because I myself is somebody who suffered from that back in the day when I couldn't see past film. I couldn't see past using celluloid. And looking back, seeing that we could have done a bunch of stuff with video, and now everything's done in video, I do kick myself just a little bit about that. So a very special thanks to the great Kevin Eastman for joining me on this week's show. Also, a big shout out to Florida Supercon for making that interview happen. Looking forward to San Diego Comic-Con next week. All the big announcements. We're going to be getting into all the new trailers and all the new projects that get announced. Probably going to be sitting down with our good friend Stephen Chamberlain to break down what it is that we saw and what is coming up this year in sci-fi. This has been a very, very cool beginning to what has been a very enjoyable labor of love, and I'm really, really thankful for everybody who listened in and continues to follow us here at the Tesseract Files. So until then, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.